Okay, it's recording.
Off you go.
Okay, so in today's video, I thought given the heatwave we're experiencing, it would be good to have a look at the media coverage. Every time these heatwaves happen, I do get quite anxious thinking about the climate crisis and how things are going to be in the future, and I sort of start noticing how these different media outlets are reporting on it, so I thought it'd be good to have a look to see how they're doing it for this heatwave. Let's have a look and see what the media outlets are saying, shall we?
I'm always reminded of that clip from The Simpsons where he says, what is it? Oh, this is the worst day of my life, and then Homer goes to him, it's the worst day
of your life so far.
It's like the same with climate. It's like, oh, this is the hottest summer of my life.
Amber heat health alert for parts of England amid warning rise in deaths likely. That was published 15 hours ago. Amber heat health alert has been issued with authorities warning soaring temperatures are likely to cause rise in heat deaths. So obviously I don't like hearing that, but that is what we have been predicting, what scientists have been predicting for a while. So it's good that they're recognising the risk, whether they mention the climate crisis or not. And what is causing that, I'm not so sure, and it's always something I'm looking out for when I see these articles.
Is it worth mentioning the wet bulb temperature in relation to heat waves?
I think there's not an upper limit, is there, for what's considered a safe temperature to work in, and that's something that's going to have to be addressed with increasing heat waves.
There's certainly a lower bound for what is too cold to work, but there's no upper bound on what is too hot to work in the UK at least. But when thinking about that, I'm reminded of the wet bulb temperature, which for those of you who don't know, it's a combination of heat and humidity, whereby your body, even if it's sweating profusely, just cannot get rid of that excess heat quickly enough. And it doesn't necessarily have to be particularly high. The temperature can be lower if the humidity is higher, and vice versa. It just basically has to reach this critical mass tipping point where your body cannot cool itself down. When an event like that occurs, we'll see like thousands of people dying en masse in a quick event if they can't get to, water stations and things like this. So that's something to bear in mind.
It's very scary.
When we were in the car the other day, we had this news report about the hot weather heat waves, and it was basically telling you to keep hydrated and stay in the shade.
Stay safe, stay cool.
This sort of stuff, without acknowledging some of the context of all that. That is good advice, don't get me wrong. You should stay hydrated, you should stay in the shade, you should rest. But that almost treats it like it's an anomalous event and not the new normal. This is how it's going to be for the rest of your life.
And not only the new normal, but also that it shouldn't be normal. This is human-caused climate change, and it's not. They don't
like to acknowledge any of that now, do they?
No, and it's not even fair to say it's human-caused climate change, because it's not caused by most humans. It's caused by a very small number of humans in very privileged places with a lot of money who own, fossil fuel companies who have caused a large proportion of this human-induced climate change.
Yeah, me and you never consented to the whole fossil fuel-based economy. It was just the world we were brought into, and we're having to live with the consequences of that.
People are living with the consequences already, right?
Yeah, and no doubt people in the future will have to live with the consequences of the actions we take today.
So, no mention of climate crisis so far. It's very much focused on, this is where the heat wave will be at 9 a.m. on Monday, and then it'll move into this area. It's all very kind of information taken about this particular time, but it's not looking at sort of the pattern of events or what is likely to happen or even what caused this. It's very much here's what's going on now.
Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful to have early warning about heatwave event, so I can avoid some of those wet bulb temperature thresholds. And I'm glad that I'm starting to see it being taken seriously, like a hurricane warning. I'd appreciate a hurricane warning if there was going to be a hurricane in my area, just like I'd appreciate a warning about severe heat or lots of rain and so on. So I do like that they're telling people how to prepare.
Yeah.
for an upcoming crisis, without acknowledging that the crisis is their fault, or the fault of governments and oil companies and so on.
That's right.
Critically important for people's lives that they have warning about events like this.
But also, as humans, we so easily get adjusted to the new normal, and I guess the problem with it's very important, this kind of reporting, to say this is what's going to happen and when, as you say, so people can be prepared. But if it just misses context, and context is so important.
Yeah.
You know, we're each year we're breaking records. Ours is the hottest day on record, the hottest June on record, the hottest May on record.
And we're gaslit the entire time.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've talked to your parents' generation about, heat exposure, and they'll tell you, oh, the summer of '76, it was really hot in that year. But as it turns out, we've beaten that record many, many times since.
The article we were looking at so far hasn't mentioned the climate crisis.
Can you do a command F for climate?
Let's have a look. No.
No mention of
No
climate in
mention. So they mention...
It's a sheer weather report.
It's just a weather report saying this is where it's going to happen and when. And it's not like, I'm expecting that every article on the heat waves should mention this is made 9 times more like, or whatever it is. We need to find out the exact thing. Post edit.
More likely
it'll
by
pop up
climate.
here.
Yeah.
10 times more likely due to climate change or whatever. Although I would argue that's proportionate response to the emergency we're in. But the fact is we don't get the information in anywhere else either. During COVID-19, we had daily briefings. They were talking about, how many deaths, how many cases of COVID.
Yeah.
They were talking about measures the government put in place.
Like
although it's woefully inadequate, it was treated like an emergency, and it was broadcast every day. And that went so far into getting the general public to also react to it like the emergency is, and to take these social measures of putting on masks, social distancing.
Yeah.
The government played a massive role in influencing what was considered normal behaviour in response to a crisis, and that is what's lacking with the climate crisis. There is no sense of the government on how we should be reacting. That's because if we actually responded appropriately to the emergency we're in, the government would be to blame, and they want to avoid blame, and that's probably why they don't do it.
Yeah. If you contrast that with heat wave weather reports, there'll be they'll talk about the heat wave, but the backdrop behind them will be people sunbathing on the beach. Or having a nice time enjoying an ice cream in the sunshine. Yeah, and certainly. They'll almost encourage this sort of lifestyle, or this sort of attitude towards hot weather. And no wonder in the comments underneath all the climate activist videos, there's people saying, oh, they've just forgotten what summer feels like. 30 degrees is normal, and they just gaslight us the entire time. Yeah,
and it's actually okay to feel, I think, scared when these heat waves come along. It's not actually normal to be experiencing heat waves on this level. And just on your point about pictures, this particular article has got people sat on the beach, sort of enjoying the heat wave. I personally have never enjoyed being in the sun. You can tell I'm fair-skinned, so I've never liked the heat. Some people do, and that's fine. But it's just crazy. At what point of warming are we going to get where the news outlets are no longer using those images? Because it does a lot to sort of psychologically prepare you or prime you to feel like, oh, this is normal, we can still enjoy this, we can still adapt to this. London Fire Brigade issued warnings over the risk of wildfires and tragedies, so there's been some warnings there. The fire service responded to 23 wildfires this year, 4 of which occurred this week. The risk of wildfires in London is currently rated as severe. Yeah. So there's a bit of talk about risk.
They don't talk about how that's going to get worse and worse each year. They don't talk about how we're, almost at 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial temperatures.
Which was the Paris Agreement.
Yeah, which...
Nearly broken that.
It was agreed at Paris not 10 years ago. And we're almost about to break that, which means we will be likely hitting tipping points leading us to 2 degrees, which will further escalate it, and it will stop when it reaches a new equilibrium. And who knows how hot that will be, and who knows if nature or humanity will be able to adapt to that rapid a change that quickly.
And just to finish on this particular article, so it's just interesting how the headline says amber heat health alert, etc., rise in deaths likely, and yet the picture, one of the pictures used in it is people just enjoying themselves on the beach. Like that's quite contradictory message there, isn't it? It's almost like it paints this picture of like some of us can still enjoy the heat wave while others die. So there's like which if you extrapolate that to a global scale, that sort of is what's happening. You've got people in the global south suffering now, dying now, whilst we're going out on the beach and enjoying it. Well, not us two, clearly, look how white we are. But so there's that, and then there's also the aspect of like within the UK, like there's going to be vulnerable people who are more likely to die in these heat waves, whilst there's other people who say that they love it, but maybe they do love the heat, but yeah, it's certainly not a normal state of affairs that we're in, and we shouldn't be normalising a rise in deaths.
That's what I think this article goes a long way to do, is to normalise it, and to they are ostensibly telling you, you know, this is a warning, rise in deaths likely, but the subliminal messaging behind it. It's the same true if you look at weather reports like on, you know, ITV News or whatever. There's this sort of underlining subliminal messaging that says hot weather is good. So it's a nice time to go and enjoy yourself. You know, you're off for 6 weeks in the summer, go down the beach, you know.
Okay, so that's article number 1. So hot. Okay. The next one I found is, again, it's another MSN one. We'll move on to the other media outlets shortly, but I just had to point this out. So, Met Office says when heatwave will end and says major changes on the way. That's the headline. The first line says Wales enjoyed its hottest day of the year on Friday with temperatures reaching 32.5 degrees. So what you just said about normalising
it's words like enjoyed.
And there's a couple sunbathing on the beach.
It just carries it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It normalises it, it plays into this idea that, oh, it's just the summer, you know, it's hot in the summer, stop your whining.
You bloody snowflakes.
Yeah, you're melting all the snowflakes, all this sort of stuff. Without realising that this is probably the hottest year we've had this decade. That the record for the hottest year will be set, if not this year, then every other year going forward. Okay,
should we look at the BBC?
Let's look at the BBC. Okay,
so this is a live coverage of the heatwave. Oh, is this live reporting generally or unclear? I guess what threw me, and this kind of plays into what we were just talking about, is I scrolled down and the first thing that came up was Wimbledon. And there's this thing sort of like around glamorising heat at Wimbledon, and like everyone's got their big hats and everyone's having strawberries and ice cream, and everyone gets very dressed up. And it's sports generally, isn't it? And it's just, I guess it threw me because I was looking for things around heat deaths, and instead it just went straight to Wimbledon. But yeah, this is included in the live reporting of the heatwave. Will the women's final at Wimbledon be a record breaker? The Wimbledon Championship started in record heat with a temperature of 32.3. I don't know, mentioning the heat wave in the context of a sporting championship almost makes it sound like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we beat that record? Because that's what sports is all about. I don't know, comparing the two together is an interesting choice. What do you make of it?
I didn't take that away, but I can see, like, you know, in the context of each subsequent year being hotter than the previous, or near enough, I can see Wimbledon saying in a few years' time, you know, Wimbledon had to be closed temporarily, or had to be certain mitigations had to be put in place because of such a temperature anomaly.
And that the grass is all yellow and
have you seen that picture of the UK in the summer a few years ago?
Oh, I remember though. I remember driving around
Yeah, see if I
my
can find that.
hometown, and I remember all of the fields were just completely brown. I remember seeing this seagull that was clearly looking for water, and I gave him some water, and I just remember thinking, these poor animals, like it's relentless for them. Where do they go? It's really important to look after wildlife in these heat waves. What else have we got? We've got the latest temperature recordings across the UK. So again, it's like, I mean, arguably this is live reporting like there was in COVID, but it's not really talking about it in terms of the context of what it is. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, I can see that becoming more common.
Yeah, events being cancelled. I mean, our country is woefully underprepared for extreme weather.
Oh, it's the hottest day of the year. Yeah, and I'm sure it is, but we're in early June. No, sorry, we're in early July, and I'm sure by August it will be, it's the hottest day of the year again.
It feels like that's all they have to say on it. Oh, it's the hottest day of the year.
Hottest day of the year, hottest day of the year, as it goes along until it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, until autumn comes and it starts to cool off. Our summers are becoming longer, so you'll experience that temperature anomaly for longer. The peaks of that anomaly will be greater at the height of summer. And more people will die each year, and we'll go on each and every year saying, you must keep cool, you must treat this like it's a one-off anomaly, when we know damn well this is coming down the road for us each and every year, or at least elements of this. The summers will be hotter and longer, the winters will be, there'll be more storms and more flooding, and each year this will continue, and that's why it's a shit article, because it doesn't mention any of that.
No.
It's just like, hottest day of the year. You must get your fan out when you're at, what's this?
Wimbledon.
Not Wimbledon, what's the other one?
Oh.
With horse racing.
Epsom. It's all about adapting. This is the new normal. We just have to get used to it. You can't change it. And you know what? Maybe it's true that we can't change it. Maybe it's true that it is too late and we do have to adapt at this stage. But what is being forgotten is the injustice that this was never meant to happen. That a small number of people have caused this.
This is a consequence of real people's actions, who have names and addresses, and who are still getting away with it today, and are still going on with the climate change denial
machine.
Spiel. Yeah.
It is a machine, it's a lobbying machine, it's everywhere you go, isn't it? Although I will say in your defence, you do have a climate section. It's worth
there you go. Look.
Oh look, there is one. It's still a lady sort of enjoying the heat wave. She's keeping cool, she's got a hat, she's got a fan. You know what, she's fine. Climate collapse won't reach this lady. Second spell of temperatures well over 30 degrees before we've even got to the end of June. How unusual is this? This is a little bit older now, a few weeks. How unusual is this, and how much is climate change to blame? Temperatures of 34 degrees are possible, blah, 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 blah. They're being triggered by an area of high pressure. Climate scientists are clear that the heat will have inevitably been boosted by our warming climate. Some people might feel these temperatures are just like summer, and it's true they are a lot cooler than the record 40 degrees and more the UK hit in July 2022, but it's important to be aware just how unusual mid-30s temperatures are for the UK. In the second half of the 20th century, 1 in 10 years saw highs of 33 degrees or more. But this heat is becoming more common. Between 2015 and 2024, half of the years saw 35 degrees or above. So that's quite a good graph.
Graph gets at what I'm trying to say. That the anomalies are getting hotter and hotter. If you look at the top band of this, there is a trend up and to the right. If you look at the bottom band, there is a trend up and to the right. And if you look at my lifetime, which starts here, we've actually, it doesn't have any data points below 30 degrees, and it's starting to have them above 40 degrees.
And you can see the trend is sort of rising.
Compare, when my parents were born, so roughly here, and you compare that to like my lifetime and my children's lifetime and their children and so on, that starts to exemplify the point.
Yeah.
I will have the humility to admit that this kind of article is exactly what we were just complaining about. The lack of stuff like this.
No, this is actually a good...
BBC.
Yeah. Thank you,
I take
BBC. So it's good. I'm glad they've got a climate section on their website. I'm glad they've got an article that addresses specifically this issue of, it's just summer. Oh wait, no, has a part of this been caused by climate change? That's really good. What is still lacking is the kind of making the connection with sort of our daily lives and actually informing people how this is going to affect them, in their lives in the future and how it's affecting people now across the planet. There's not that kind of widespread sense of emergency. I mean, there is since sort of Extinction Rebellion, Greta Thunberg, David Attenborough, since they've been doing that kind of advocacy, and climate activists have been trying to raise the alarm. There certainly is more awareness and more concern, but it just does not feel proportionate. Like, it doesn't feel like a proportionate response. The reporting doesn't feel proportionate, because for every article like this, you've got people on the platform. You've got people like Piers Morgan. You've got, what's that other, GB News, all those platforms who are literally sort of talking down anyone trying to peacefully protest about the government's inaction on this issue. You've got people downplaying it. So yes, it's good there's a section on climate and there's this particular article, but it does nothing to drown out the kind of the huge swathes of disinformation that's been putting on there to sow seeds of doubt in the general population, which there still is. There's soft denial. There's a lot of soft denial. I wonder who's funding all
that kind of propaganda.
Certainly. So we've got hard denial, which is
there is no climate change.
Yep. And there are still people who parrot that. Would you believe that?
Yep.
And then you've got soft denial, which is they acknowledge the science and they acknowledge it's a thing, but they sort of say, oh, it's not an issue for me to worry about, it's nothing you can do about it, sort of downplaying it, oh, we've got to get used to it, that kind of thing. So that's what we see on a lot of these articles, is the kind of soft denial. Sort of the not saying it's not real, but downplaying it.
Constantly downplaying it.
Yeah. It's essentially that, isn't it? That's what we're seeing. They're just kicking the can down the road, saying that's a future problem, which is generational injustice as far as I can see, putting that problem on your children. This was quite a good thing that they mentioned. Small shift in temperature makes a big difference, because we talk about 1.5 degrees past pre-industrial levels, and it doesn't sound that much, but it is true. Small shift in temperature makes a massive difference. Do you want to explain about why that is?
Yeah, so you're right, 1.5 degrees, if you're used to 15 degrees and it's 16.5 degrees, you are not going to feel the difference really. But what we're talking about when we talk about 1.5 degrees relative to the pre-industrial average temperature, we're talking about average temperature, meaning like that takes all of the data points from around the planet and averages them together. And so moving the average of that is very difficult, because there's so many sort of extremities across the planet. And so this is, I guess, is what this graph is trying to show, that as the average temperature moves, the propensity for extreme heat to become more common, and for that extreme to be much more extreme. That's what we're talking about. Kevin Anderson does a great explanation of this in one of his talks that I'll link below.
It's worth saying, there's a quote here from Dr. Frederic Otto, Associate Professor at Imperial College London. We absolutely do not need to do an attribution study to know that this heat wave is hotter than it would have been without our continued burning of oil, coal and gas. Countless studies have shown that climate change is an absolute game changer when it comes to heat in Europe, making heat waves much more frequent, especially the hottest ones, and more intense. So I think this is actually one of the better articles I've seen in recent years. It's actually explaining some of the science behind the heat waves. It's so explaining the likelihood because of climate.
Not just deal with the crisis as well, but understand the crisis.
Yeah.
And when you understand the problem, you might actually be better equipped to do something about it.
So hats off to BBC. That is a really good article.
Yeah.
I think what we said earlier still stands. I think there needs to be daily briefings. I think it doesn't do anything to dissuade the barrage of misinformation from the fossil fuel lobby. That's a whole nother thing that needs to be addressed, but it's one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We've got this one from the Independent. This was published a few days ago, yesterday actually. 50 times more people to die from heat-related deaths in England by 2070. So obviously that's quite a scary headline. 2070, what are we now? 2020, this is 50 years from now, so this is like my niece and nephew kind of middle age.
What stands out more to me is the subheading.
Yeah.
Researchers warn that UK's 40 degree summer, which was only a few years ago and was, I think it was like 2 degrees above the previous record. So it beat the previous record by quite a margin and was quite unexpected in doing so. But here it's saying that could become the norm in just 25 years.
Yeah. That's a terrifying prospect.
The fact that a record will become the new norm will. The record of 2050 become the norm by 2075. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, that will become the norm, even though it shouldn't be. But it's good that what I like about this article is it's talking about some of the future impacts.
Changing baseline is what I'm trying to articulate.
The baseline, so you talk about baseline. University College London researchers have found that 34,027 people could die in this period, compared to today's baseline figure of 634 based on a 4.3 warming prediction. Okay, so it's different projections of warming. Okay, so it's saying under
a 4.3 degree warming prediction.
Which would be catastrophic, by the way.
Yeah, it would be apocalyptic.
Mad Max kind of. So under that pessimistic scenario, that's how many people are expected to die in that period. Okay, we just needed a break because it's so hot and we've got massive brain fog right now, so sorry about that.
You don't need to.
Yes, so this independent article, good title, kind of scary, but sometimes we need to face the scary head on.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah. Britain braces for its third heatwave in just a few weeks, with temperatures set to soar above 30 degrees over many parts of the country. Oh yeah, so there's modelling. So scientists have mapped various scenarios of warming, sort of like a current scenario based on if we continue to burn fossil fuels and the greenhouse gases continue at that current rate, what impacts will we see, versus an optimistic model where we've got technological innovation, where we meet our climate goals, we do all the policies that we need to do to protect people, versus a very pessimistic model where we see
accelerated
emissions.
It's worth noting that if we look at the models that we have predicted in the past, the one that our current pathway is most aligned with is RCP 8.5, which is one of the highest, I think it might be the highest emissions pathway that we set out. And we're basically online with that. And also, I should mention that all of our climate pathways have some varying degrees of negative emissions technologies. Again, it's in the Kevin Anderson talk, so I will link that below. Yeah, we're basically relying in all of these models on magical technologies that do not exist yet, or at least if they do exist, they do not exist at scale. So there are currently no pathways that exist today that get emissions down quick enough to avoid 2 degrees.
Yeah, so that's worth bearing in mind. And this article basically looks at the number of heat-related deaths under these different models. So even under a more optimistic model of 1.6 degree of warming, which bear in mind, by the way, we're already at 1.47, so that doesn't seem very likely. At least 3,000 people could die in the 2050s. A criticism of this article is it's very European, white-centric. It doesn't acknowledge the millions of people dying already from climate change who have already had their lives irreparably damaged. And there's what's going on in the global south right now.
Well, Tuvalu won't exist in 2050.
No.
It won't exist as a country.
Is that the one with the famous speech of the president who's he's at his podium talking about climate change, and he's actually knee deep in water so these kind of island states are being wiped off the map, like quite literally. And when you see sort of what happens at COP and the way these people get treated, it's disgusting.
Meanwhile, we've got other countries like Russia who are quite happy about the warming planet because it will open up the Arctic shipping pathway. I forget the name of it, but it gives them more warm water ports and more power on the global stage in a warmer world. So to some countries it can be seen as a benefit, even though it causes harm to everyone.
What's that book by Naomi Klein about this phenomenon that when there's disasters there'll be people out there sort of seeking to profit from such that is what we're going to see. It'll get to the point where like natural resources that we need to cope in this kind of weather will be monetized as they already are, like water to become scarce, there'll be companies, I imagine, trying to profit from that, and from many other things.
Another thing you've just reminded me of is so the way we deal with heat anomalies at the moment is with air conditioning and such like. These are machines that produce heat to the atmosphere and take heat from one place and put it in another, i.e. take it from inside the house and put it outside the house. Whilst these might be helping on the individual scale, globally much more air conditioning units are going to have to be produced in order to help people deal with these extreme heat anomalies, which will further exacerbate the problem.
Yeah,
so that's
just one small aspect, isn't it?
That's just another small aspect of it.
And really much starts to put things in perspective of like how much deep shit we're in, basically.
I could mention as well that most of the heat that we're capturing at the moment with our greenhouse gas blanket across the planet, most of that heat has already been absorbed by the oceans, so we're not even feeling half of the warming that we ought to have felt based on those carbon emissions, historic carbon emissions.
Yeah, so just on your point about adaptation, we can mitigate their severity, the heat waves, by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and with carefully planned adaptations, but we have to start now. We had to start decades ago. When we were born, we had to start even beyond then, and it's just this delay. Basically, we like it's talking about heat-related deaths. We like that it's talking about the different models.
I like that it's talking about 2070. It's talking about the future and what we can expect going forward, not just how to deal with it today and here and now.
I agree, and don't get me wrong, it's a British paper, so it's going to do that, as you said. I think because there's just a lack of information generally about how people are being displaced now. Like, someone has to talk about that on a regular basis, but it's not being talked about, and these people are often silenced and dismissed, like their lives don't matter. But yeah, pretty good article overall though. Okay, so last article is a Guardian article.
Doing another one?
This is the last one. Climate breakdown tripled death toll in Europe's June heatwave, study finds. So similar, talking about heat deaths. Heat caused 2,300 deaths across 12 cities, of which 1,500 were down to climate crisis. So this is really good that I think that this is starting to become more common, that we are actually trying to attribute heat deaths to the climate crisis specifically. Because I remember a time, I mean, it might have been maybe just my awareness has increased, but I remember a time when I wasn't seeing many articles around this kind of thing. It was very much just like heat wave. Now they're actually trying to attribute that, and I think the modelling and the science is getting better at being able to do that. So I think it's really good that science is getting out there. Planet heating pollution tripled the death toll from the quietly devastating heat wave that seared Europe at the end of June. So this is more, Europe now. Milan was the hardest hit city, followed by Paris and Barcelona. London had 273 heat deaths, 171 of which the researchers attributed to human influence. So that was just London. That's insane.
London does suffer from the urban heat island effect more than anywhere else.
Yeah. This study demonstrates why heat waves are known as silent killers. That's quite a good graph, I think. That's quite a good visual graph for people. So which bits are attributable? It's the orange bits, is it?
No, the red bits.
The red bits. Oh wow, that's quite shocking. I mean, again, I'm glad this is here. I'm glad we're seeing heat deaths talked about. This comes back to a broader point, which is it's really good when you see articles that are getting the science out there, getting the experts' warnings out there, and trying to inform people with these graphs. That's really great. But it really does feel like a drop in the ocean when you look at the amount of disinformation that is occurring more generally. It's a bit like when, a local council will put in a great cycle path, but then they'll invest loads in road building. Like, it's the broader sort of context isn't great.
Yeah. Or how in a completely different field, in AI, so much money is put into AI development and a tiny amount is put into AI safety.
Right. Yeah, so what we need is a complete overhaul of how we inform the current and future generations about the climate crisis and its worsening impacts. It's no good just having some good articles here and there, or a climate section on a bit of the news website. when you've got this massive misinformation that's with us all the time, and it's got to start, you know, at school. It's got to start with the kids, and we've got to be educated from there on. Really, it's got to be a, you know, I hear this phrase a lot, like a World War II style mobilisation of all our resources into addressing climate crisis and its impacts, and that includes educating people, informing people consistently, and not having a media owned by the billionaire class, owned by the elites and the British establishment, who can just publish what they think is going to suit their interests. So that's what we really need, is a complete overhaul, and it needs to be treated like the emergency is, to the point where that will shift social norms around our feelings around climate and what's acceptable and what's not. Just like smoking, there was a time when people would be smoking indoors and that was accepted.
Not long
ago at all. I still remember when that was acceptable. And then, you know, there was a concerted effort from government and public health and all of these institutions to really change people's feelings around smoking, and putting in bans and making them more expensive, and all of these things have led to social norms changing, and it's now not acceptable at all to smoke indoors. That's the kind of
it's illegal,
right? You know, so in a similar vein, these things need to be penalised, like the emitting of fossil fuels into the atmosphere. All of these, you know, you can put in carbon taxes and put in measures to dissuade people and companies from polluting the atmosphere. It needs to be a concerted effort alongside an information campaign, and that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing a bit of it, largely thanks to climate activists who are raising the alarm, and from some public figures, but there's not a lot, and there's by no means enough. That's it for today. That was our sort of heatwave news roundup. We might try and do more of these as more heatwaves will inevitably occur. Do send us your articles of any heatwave coverage that you thought was particularly good or particularly bad. It'd be interesting to see. And yeah, thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe, and if you like our work and you appreciate what we're doing, we'd really appreciate the support. So yeah.
Bye.
Okay. Click on news. So. The less I have to edit out, the better. So don't just
you'll edit from
waste stuff for the sake of it.
You'll edit from where you finish your intro, and then we'll just cut back when you've got